Hello, I'm Helen Bradley. Welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're going to look at creating pattern stationery in Illustrator. Now this is in answer to a question that one of my subscribers sent to me, and she wanted to know how she could create a pattern border for some stationery in Illustrator. So let's see how we're going to do this. I'll start by clicking Create New. And I'm going to create a document that is the actual size of the paper I'm going to be using. So I'm going to use inches, and I'm going to make it 8.5 by 11 inches. This is letter size. If you're using A4, you would set it to A4 size. I'll use RGB color. I'll click Create. So we now have a document that is the size of a letter sheet of paper. We'll add a rectangle to this, so I'll click on the rectangle tool, click once in the document. I want one that is 8.5 wide by 11 inches tall because that is letter paper size. Again, if you're using A4, you would set this to A4 paper size. And make sure that this is positioned perfectly over the artboard. So I'm going to the Align tool. Let's choose Show Options, Align to Artboard, and then center it on the artboard. Now we need the shape in the middle that is going to be the area where somebody could write. And what my subscriber asked for was how they could control the size of the area in the middle. Well, you're going to do that simply by clicking on the rectangle tool, click once in the document, and set it to whatever width that you want. Now I'm thinking I'm going to leave a 1/2 inch border of pattern all the way around the edge of this paper, and all the rest is going to be writing. So if I'm allowing a 1/2 inch border all the way around, that's 1/2 inch top and bottom. So I need to reduce the width and height by 1 inch. So I'm going to make it 7.5 by 10 inches. And I want this to be centered on the artboard as well. So let's go and select Horizontal Align Center and Vertical Align Center. So I've got two rectangles here. I've got one that is the size of my paper, and I've got one that's going to be the size of my writing area. And I want to put a pattern in this area here. Well, the subscriber quite correctly pointed out that one way of doing that was to fill this back rectangle with the pattern and then add a white rectangle on top. But that wasn't what she wanted to do. She wanted an element around the edge she could just drop the pattern in. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to select both rectangles, the inner one and the outer one. So if we look in the layers palette here, both of them are selected. The smaller one is on top, so I'll click from the Pathfinder palette here on minus front. If the smaller one were at the back, then we would choose minus back, but because it's at front, minus front. And that will give us a compound path that is just the area around the very edge of the sheet of paper. If I go to the swatches panel, I can now fill that with a color, or I could fill it with a pattern, and that can be a pattern I've created or a pattern that comes with Illustrator. The only other thing we probably need to concern ourselves with is whether we want a stroke or not. And if you don't want a stroke, make sure that you select your object and turn off stroke so that there's only this element around the very edge that has content in it. There is no content in the middle, which means that you could put all sorts of things in here if you wanted to, or you could just leave it blank. Now to export it so that it can be sold, for example, you would choose File and then Export. I'm going to choose Save for Web Legacy so that I can create this as a JPEG, but you could also create it as a PNG image if you want to include that transparency in the middle. It just really depends on what it is that the marketplace requires, and then you would just go ahead and save it. So I hope you've enjoyed this rather quick tutorial on creating stationery elements in Illustrator. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you'll be alerted when new videos are released. Until next time, my name's Helen Bradley. Thank you so much for joining me here on my YouTube channel.